Hey guys, this is Dorian Day and welcome to Massive in Depth number 20. Today we're going to be going over how to make guitar sounding leads in Massive. Once again, this video accompanies the release of a pack from Sick Twisted Mind Studios called Guitar Leads Volume 1. You can find the buy link in the description along with the link to the demo pack containing the presets we went over in this video. Alright, so what is a guitar lead? Well, basically they were leads that I made while doing all the other packs that sounded like they could pass as a guitar. I didn't set out to make these specifically, so trying to give a cohesive sound design guide is somewhat difficult. Instead, I went through all the patches and grabbed the main information from them and put them into a text sheet and Excel sheet. I'm going to go over these now. I would study these and get an idea of what options you can use to get guitar sounding leads. I'm sure other stuff works too, but these are the things that were in my patches. So, first of all, let's just read through each patch. So for the first patch, we had implex, color, and sine harmonics for our oscillators, a double notch for our filter. On the Modo OSC, we had ring modulation and phase modulation, and you can try those on any of the OSCs and see what you like the most. For the inserts, we used clip and bit crushing, and for the effects, I used tube and flanger mono. For patch 2, we have reducer for the oscillator, acid for the filter, ring modulation for the Modo SC, and no inserts. And we had B-tube as the effect. For patch 3, we had strontium. The filter was scream. We had a Mod OSC of PM phase modulation, no inserts, and we had tube on the main effects. For patch 4, we had format saw, 2 bandpass filters, a phase modulation on the Mod OSC, and then clip and frequency shifter for the insert effects. Nothing on the main effects. Patch 5, 2 square saw waves. Pretty sure it was set on saw. No filter, Mod OSC, phase modulation, insert effects clip, and then a tube for the main effects. Patch 6, we had OSTs on the square saw 1, acid on the filter, ring modulation on the Mod OSC, and no insert effects, and then we had tube on the main effects. Patch 7, we had, I think it's bass pulse, chord, and polysaw for the OSCs, double notch for the filter, and ring modulation and phase modulation on the Mod OSC, clipping and bit crushing on the insert effect, B-tube, Bronner tube on the effect, and then flanger -1. Patch 8, Math 3 OSC, and then a sonic. No filter, phase modulation on the Mod OSC, clipping on the insert effect, T-tube as the main effect. Patch 9, Grain 1, classic bronze for the OSCs, band reject and band pass for the filter, phase modulation on the Mod OSC, clip and frequency shifting on the inserts, and no effects. Patch 10, three square saws, pretty sure it was set on saw, band pass on the filter, Mod OSC none, clipping on the insert, and tube on the main effect. 11, we had chord, square saw 1, color, acid and band pass filters, RM and PM, clipping and sine shaping, and no effects. Patch 12, grain 1, acid escalation 1, an acid filter, phase modulation, clipping and parabolic shaping, and then some chorus. Patch 13, we had polysaw 1 twice, and then math 1. We used a bandpass filter. We didn't use the Mod OSC. We had clipping as an insert effect and no main effect. Patch 14, I had math 1, carbon, and guitar pulse. We had band reject and bandpass filters. We had Mod OSC on the phase modulation. We had insert effects for the clip and frequency, or for the insert effects, we had clip and frequency shifting. On the regular effects, we had nothing. Patch 15, we have grain 1 on the oscillators, scream on the filter, phase modulation on the Mod OSC, and then no insert effects. Patch 16, we have guitar pulse on the OSC, scream on the filter, phase modulation, no insert effect, and tube. I don't remember which one. Try them all. Patch 17, we have crush, frozen, sine format for the OSCs, acid on the filter, phase modulation on the Mod OSC, clipping and P-shaping on the insert effects, and then chorus as the final effect. Patch 18, We had square saw twice, an all pass filter and a daft filter. For Moto SC, we had ring modulation and phase modulation on. We had frequency shifting on the insert effects, and then a flanger at the end, probably mono -1. Patch 19, 2 square saw ones. Maybe it was a square saw 2. I don't remember. That's probably a typo. Filter, all pass and daft, Moto SC, ring modulation and phase modulation, insert effects, frequency shifting, no final effects. Patch 20, 1 sine format filter or oscillator, band reject twice, a ring modulation and phase modulation, Moto SC. Insert effects is the sine shaper and the clipper, and then we have tube on the final bus. Okay. So I also synthesized this down to the main information. So I got rid of duplicates, I guess is a better way to say this. So the only oscillators that were used in these patches were implex, color, sine harmonic 2, reducer, strontium, format saw, square saw, bass pulse, I think, chord, polysaw, math 3, sonic, classic, bronze, acid, escalation 1, math 1, carbon, guitar pulse, crush, frozen, sine format, and grain 1. So that's like, I don't know, I think there's, how many are there? I think it's like 60 or something. I counted, but I forgot. Okay, which filters were used? Double notch, acid, scream, bandpass. I guess acid was listed twice, so it should be 7 for acid. So we used 2 double notches, 3 screams, 6 bandpass, 6 acid, 4 band reject, 2 all pass, and 2 daft. So no low pass, no high pass, mostly things that make stuff dirty. For example, scream, acid, and daft are all low passes, but scream has feedback. Acid has saturation on the filter, and daft, I don't remember exactly what makes daft special. But you can check the filters video and we talk about it a little bit. Okay, next, the insert effects, phase modulation and ring modulation a lot, frequency shifting. Oh wait, no, I guess that's an insert. Yeah, so on the Moto SC, I didn't use filter modulation or wavetable position modulation ever. I'm sure it sounds good sometimes, but I didn't ever try it out for whatever reason. I sort of just kind of got on to using that more. Anyways, PM and RM a lot. For the insert effects, we have clipping 12 times, bit crush 2, frequency shift 4 times, sine shaper twice, and the parabolic shaper twice. And then for the final effects, we had B tube 10 times, flanger -1 mono twice, and chorus twice. Okay, now I'm going to go over 4 presets from the pack. So the first is number 5. Okay, so we have 2 square saw, 1 for the first 2 oscillators. The first is set to the fundamental, and the second is set to 17 cents above the fundamental. So there's a slight amount of detuning. Wavetable position intensity amp maxed on the first, and wavetable position intensity maxed on the second. Amp all the way to the left. Filter mix split in between the 2 filters, and we're not using any filters. The audio is coming out clean from the filters. We're using mod OSC phase modulation on the first oscillator. We use the pitch is -36, and the phase modulation's all the way left, the knob, in case I didn't mention that. Okay, we're using T-tube with dry, wet, and drive set in the center. Dimension expander set all the way left. We have I think the envelope is pretty much default except for with max volume. A little bit of attack, about the same amount of release. We have a pitch envelope, instant attack, default release, maximum sustain. It goes on both of the oscillator's pitch at 2 octaves. So we instantly go up 2 octaves when we play a note, and it gives us that whoop sound. Voicing, we're monophone and legato triller. so we can do that like hammer on and pull off thing. Okay. So clipping, we have one insert effect. It's clip, dry wet all the way to the left, drive all the way to the right, and it's set after the first filter. Okay, now we look at the macros. We have vibrato for the first macro. I think it's default settings. Portamento for the second macro. The third controls the attack on this pitch envelope. I normally call this whoop. Four controls the dimension expander. Five controls the brightness. Six controls the layering. So it increases the amount of the first oscillator. I'm going to switch these because the one with the fundamental tone should really be always playing. Okay, saved. 7 is phase modulation. It's the amount of phase modulation. And 8 is the phase modulation rate. It increases the pitch of the Moto SC. And once again, PM is only on the first oscillator. We have here grain 1 on the first oscillator, classic on the second, and bronze on the third. The first oscillator is set to 1 octave above, wavetable position maxed. Our intensity is on format, and we're at like 10 o'clock. Amp is maxed. I think I said that, but anyways. Second oscillator, detuned by 1 cent down. We're on classic. Wavetable position is basically pointing directly left. Intensity on the format is on, we're on format mode, and our intensity is at about, I think, 11 o'clock. Amp all the way to the left. Bronze on the third oscillator. Wavetable position all the way to the right. Intensity all the way to the right on bin minus mode. Amp max. The sound is split between the filters on each of the oscillators except for the first, where it's slightly more to the second filter. We have mono oscillator on, 1 octave above the fundamental. We're using PM only on the first oscillator. Phase modulation knob all the way to the left. We're using 2 filters in serial mode. The first is a band reject filter with a cutoff all the way to the left and the bandwidth at 10 o'clock, the resonance at 11. The volume is max, and that runs directly into into a band pass filter with the cutoff almost directly right, slightly below that. Bandwidth at 1 o'clock and resonance at, I think, just like 11:30, just before midway. And we're on mix 2, so we're grabbing out of the second filter only. We have no external effects on, but we have the equalizer set with a little bit of high shelf and a little bit of low shelf boosting. Okay, for our envelope, we have like a pluck type envelope. There's a little bit of attack, maximum decay, no sustain, no release. Envelope 1 is on the pitch, but it's not doing anything, so I'm going to remove it. Okay. So that does the envelopes, I think. I think I should have talked about the insert effects though first. So we have insert 1 on clipping, drive wet all the way to the left, drive all the way to the right. And it's before the amp. And then we have insert 2, a frequency shifter. It's right after the second filter, dry wet to the left, and pitch is literally moved the least you can move it. I used shift and a lot of patience to get it just very, very subtly, because it's still doing something even though you can barely see it. You really can't tell that it's moved, but it still has an impact, as you can hear. Okay. Voicing, 3 voices, mono rotate, legato triller. Yeah, these are oscillator settings, mono on the vibrato. Okay, band reject, or the first macro is band reject. Wait, I skipped feedback. Turn on your feedback. grab it from after the amp and turn it up to about 10 o'clock. Okay, so the macros, the first is on the band reject filter, 100% depth. The second is on the band pass filter, about halfway depth in the opposite direction. Clipping, full, dry, wet for macro 3. Feedback, I'm gonna switch this. Very guitar-y. Okay. 5 is phase modulation. It's just full depth on the phase modulation knob over here in the Moto SC. 6 is blur. It increases the amount of pitch cutoff, so detuning, wavetable position spread, and then pan spread, or voice pan position spreading. 7 is transform. It controls the frequency shifter. It's called that because sometimes it sounds like transformers. It's on a couple other patches that sound like exactly like transformers. But since that's not the case, I'm just going to call it frequency shift. Okay, I think that completes this patch. If I didn't say it, layer is 8, and it just increases the amount of the second oscillator. It's basically the bass layer because this is 1 octave down, as you can see. Okay, 14. First oscillator is Math 1. The second oscillator is Carbon, and the third is G-Pulse. I'm pretty sure that this is a variation of the last batch, so let's go to 9. Yeah. So this is pretty much the last patch with different oscillator settings. So what I do is I pretty much make, for a pack, somewhere between, I don't know, 5 to 10, maybe even more, sometimes 12 of these different patches. And then I will pretty much copy the patch, each one of them, and make a different patch based on that one patch, switching out oscillators or macros or filters or whatever, and try and get a different sound that was close to the first sound. And then I keep the best ones to make packs. And sometimes they're totally different from their parent, and sometimes they're pretty close, mostly oscillator settings, but things that at least when you're clicking through the presets pretty quickly, you have a wide range of stuff that you can then tweak once you're in the range that you're looking for. So since it's so close, I'm not really going to go over it again. Clear out your ones unless you want them. I didn't want pitch or cutoff in the end. Just switch to the oscillators to Math 1, Carbon, and G-Pulse, and I think, yeah, that's it. There's not really much more to say. Switch the feedback. But when you get these, they're already going to be fixed. All right, the last one, 20. Now this is like almost a dubstep bass sound, but I think it sounds pretty cool as a, I don't know, a futuristic guitar lead. And it varies based on how much PM or anything else you have going on. But at any rate, it's created from the signed format oscillator, which is one of the dirtiest oscillators in Serum, or I mean Massive, that you can use to make squelchy sounds. And I'm sure we're going to be going over it lots. It's pretty much one of my favorites now that I've really spent some time thinking about I guess what oscillators you're using. For the longest time, random was sort of, or massive was sort of random to me. I would just grab stuff, and now I'm thinking like, oh yeah, this waveform sounds like this, and sine format sounds really awesome for a lot of, I wouldn't say dubsteppy type sounds, but plenty of stuff too, acid, all kinds of things. Anyway, sine format on the first oscillator, fundamental pitch, wavetable position all the way to the right, intensity all the way to the right, amp all the way to the right. Audio split between both filters. Modulation OSC, 2 octaves down. We're having phase modulation and ring modulation on the first oscillator. Ring mod is in the center. It doesn't change. Phase mod is all the way to the left. We have 2 band reject filters. The first is set to about like 10 o'clock. The bandwidth is almost in the middle, but slightly left. Resonance is at like 11, 10:30. Cutoff on the second filter all the way to the left. Bandwidth even just more left than the top one, so almost to the center and then left a little bit. Same with the resonance. Volumes all the way max on both. Mix on the first. We're in serial mode so that I can either get the audio out of the first one or the audio out of the series. B-tube, dry, wet, and drive pretty much in the center. Slight adjustment for drive from center left a little bit. Dimension expander, all the way left. Volume envelope is pretty much default with a little bit of extra release. Oscillator section, this is pretty much standard. Voicing, mono, always, no pitch cutoff, wavetable position, pan position, nothing. Routing, we have a sine shaper after the first filter, max dry wet, max drive. We have a clipper after the second filter, max drive, far left dry wet. Feedback, grabbing after the amp all the way to the left. Okay, the macros, the first one, it controls vibrato. I think it's default settings, glide, portamento. Set about half depth, dimension expander, controlling the dimension expander, brightness on the EQ or the high shelf, clipping, full dry wet on the clipping, feedback, about quarter modulation. Thickness is, yeah. See, when I first started making these presets, I was calling things stuff like thickness or maybe what kind of sound it was adding or changing. And I realized that was a horrible idea because then I would go into these patches and I don't know what was creating thickness in this one patch. Oh, here, look, it's the mix slider. I mean, or I changed it, who knows? But anyway, at any rate, I've now adopted the standard of extremely boring and obvious names for the macros so that when you come in here, you know what they do instead of, or what they control instead of exactly what they do to the sound. Okay, so that finishes all 4 presets. Once again, you can grab all of these in the demo pack on sicktwistedminds.com, or you can grab the full one with all 20 of these presets. And that does it for Massive in Depth number 20. Thank you very much.